Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. So today we're talking about why healing is so hard. So I have this friend, it's a long story about how I met this friend, but she's a beautiful woman. She was a medical doctor, was a psychiatrist, and got multiple sclerosis and had this cutting edge treatment where they ablated her bone marrow. And she was in isolation for 4 months. It was hectic, and then developed a severe platelet deficiency, so her blood couldn't clot, and it was really dangerous. And anyway, I met her at a health spa. And we have since become friends because she then moved, at the time, she was moving away from conventional medicine and into this sort of whole complementary medicine realm, and particularly with an emphasis on this whole mind-body healing. And she had a really, a fascinating journey. And we were speaking a while ago, probably a year or so ago, and she said, I would love to help people to heal fully, but, it's really hard. It's like this journey has not been easy. It's like not for the faint-hearted. It's really difficult. And I mean, I have never had that kind of chronic disease level, but I could relate to what she was saying, because in my 27 years of private practice as a homeopath, dealing with people who were ill, I realized that even though the principles of healing are easy, and it actually can be simple, you just have to remove the obstacles to cure. I mean, really, not really asking too much. It's difficult. And it was so difficult that eventually I was like, I don't want to work with people who are ill anymore. Honestly, I don't, this is too hard. It's too hard for me. I can't disconnect myself from it. It's so difficult. Why is it so challenging? Why is this harder than working with people who have relationship problems, or people who have money problems, or people who are trying to find a purpose? Why is it so much harder? And the conclusion that I came to was because when you're trying to heal your relationship with money, for example, or you're trying to heal your relationship with other people, or you're trying to heal, or you're trying to find a connection to your purpose, it's like it's outside of you. I mean, I know it is part of you, but it's not quite like you. Whereas when you are ill, it is you. It's in your body. It's like, it's not just in your body. It's in your body. It's in your mind. It's in your emotions. And it's an intrinsic part of you. And so the healing journey really asks of us to give up part of ourselves. Give up perceptions that we have of part of ourselves, and to embrace other parts of ourselves that we've rejected. Now, the whole of life is about that. But I think that the healing journey becomes so personal. Now, when we talk about the healing journey, I'm talking about whether you're healing physical or mental or emotional health, or ill health in this case. And so healing is difficult because it is part of who we are, that we are trying to adapt ourselves to. So we're almost changing our entire relationship with ourselves. And that's the part that becomes really hard, in my opinion. So part of the difficulty, part of the reason why I wanted to get out of practice was because I felt that working in private practice as a homeopath, my capacity to help people truly heal was limited. I felt like I was just helping them put a band-aid on things for a while, and then it wasn't really true healing. And that's when I moved into this online space and blah, blah, blah. But even when I started in the online space, I was like, you know what? I'm not actually going to help people heal from illness. I'm going to pick something softer, So I had sort of like general themes for my programs, like thrive and, helping people. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Helping people heal relationships, for example, or helping people find helping people with their careers, and all sorts of general life coaching kind of stuff. And there was always like a health component, but I was never really into like the chronic disease thing. And my career has become full circle because I've realized that actually disease fascinates me, and that is where my true calling lies. And so I'm back to helping people truly heal what is wrong with them. Now, there's a difference between your symptoms being removed and true healing. True healing is not actually even necessarily having your symptoms change that much. It's about integrating parts of yourself. It's about integrating your whole self. You can be truly healed and still die from a disease. We're all going to die from something. But you can have your symptoms cured and not be healed. And so it's healing that I'm really interested in. So there are a couple of premises that I work with in terms of healing. And the first is that our focus creates our reality, not our attitude. And so very often it's very difficult when you've got severe signs and symptoms to have a positive attitude. And in fact, we get praised for that. People say, oh, so-and-so's got cancer and they're really struggling with the chemo, but such a positive person or such a positive attitude. And sometimes the positive attitude actually makes us not acknowledge the truth of how we're feeling. It causes us to suppress how we're feeling. And that positive attitude is part of our addiction to being able to endure, to be able to struggle, to be able to be resilient, to be able to be tough when, shit's hitting the fan. And that can actually keep us ill because we then push through and we suppress and we cover up. And then we're not integrating those weakened part of ourselves. And the weak part of ourselves can be the part of me that just wants to cry because I feel so hopeless about my situation today. But because positive attitudes are so validated externally and we get so many kudos for being positive, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, what a beautiful, but so strong. People are always in awe of how strong people are very often when they've got cancer. Well, the more I buy into how strong I am, the more I have to be strong, the less vulnerable I can be. And maybe part of the reason why I have the disease is so that I can connect with that vulnerable part of me, so that I can integrate that softer, more vulnerable part of me, and that I don't always have to be strong. The pressure to be strong always and never weak is incredibly hard. The pressure to be positive and not negative, it's incredibly hectic. And that pressure affects your autonomic nervous system, and your autonomic nervous system controls all your automatic processes that happen in your body. And so everything really, from your immune system to your endocrine system to your neurotransmitters, is regulated through your autonomic nervous system. But pushing through, pretending, having to be tough, having to be strong, having to be positive, that compromises your sympathetic nervous system, and you cannot heal under those conditions. So our focus, not our attitude, creates our reality. The second premise is that all human beings have a fundamental longing for health at a soul level. We all long. It's a fundamental choice that we all want to make, is that we all want to be healthy in body, mind, and spirit. And that the third premise is that we all have a heart. We all have longings that our hearts are longing to express. We all have this. And many of us suppress that. Many of us are taught from an early age that the longings of your heart don't matter. Making other people happy is what matters. Keeping other people okay is what matters. You don't matter. And the fourth one is that your whole being is self-healing. Your being is always tending to perfect health. But unknowingly, you put up obstacles, or circumstances create obstacles that actually stop that. And the fifth premise is that your signs and symptoms are messages. They are indicators that are trying to get you back to wholeness. They're trying to get you back to integrating yourself fully so that you can be fully healthy. So if it's your focus, if you're focusing on healing, if your body's a self-healing, if you're a self-healing being, if you can connect to what your heart is longing to express, which is wonderful health, and if your signs and symptoms are giving you feedback and you can find out what that feedback is, then what makes it so hard? Well, what makes it so hard is that there are some obstacles that naturally occur along the way. And the first of these is resistance. So there are two streams of consciousness that are constantly creating your reality. The one is your ego. Your mind is part of that. Your ego mind, it's part of one stream of reality. And by default, your focus is set there. Because that's what most of us call reality. That's what most of us call the truth. And that's what most of us call our true selves. That is our ego reality. And your ego is formed in the first 3 years of your life in order for you to be able to orient yourself to the world so that you can have a perception of yourself as being separate from others. So your ego consists of what you believe about yourself, what you believe about others, and what you believe about the world. And those beliefs have all actually been formed in response to how you were treated by your caregivers. Now, if you had a need that was unmet, then you're going to have a negative belief about yourself. If you had your needs met, you're going to have more positive beliefs about yourself. So we all have a combination of both. So that's your ego reality. And your ego reality communicates to you through your thoughts and feelings. Most of us think our thoughts and feelings are who we really are. Your thoughts and feelings are who you make up about yourself. They're actually not real, because everybody's thoughts and feelings are different, right? And that's why 5 people can see the same event and they're all going to have a different version of what happened. Your ego communicates through your thoughts and your feelings, and your beliefs run what you think and feel about just about everything. And your beliefs ultimately all boil down to the fact that you don't think that you can have what you want. Either because you don't deserve it, because you're not worthy, because you're not good enough, because you're invisible, because you can't trust yourself, because you're not capable, because you don't have the capacity, because you don't know what the right way is, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Ultimately, it boils down to you cannot have what you would love. You cannot actually have what your heart is longing to express. You have to settle for what you can do in order to be accepted in the world. So your ego reality results in your emotions. So something comes into comes in through your senses. You see something or you hear something, comes in through your senses, and it gets run by your filter, the filter of your beliefs. And if that supports what you believe about yourself and that's a negative thing, then you're going to call that a bad thing. And if it challenges that, then or if it supports what you think is good, you're going to call it a good thing. If it challenges what you think is good, you're going to call it a bad thing. And you have a thought, which then generates an emotion, which then generates another thought, which then helps to generate another emotion. And you get caught in what Dr. Joe Dispenza calls the thinking-feeling loop. Now, the problem is that when we are tiny, because our parents were never taught how to actually honor their emotions, most of them, we are not encouraged to actually express ourselves emotionally or to even feel negative emotion fully. And so when we feel negative emotions as children, our parents continuously try to soothe us. Now, little babies communicate through crying, okay? So that's fine. So the baby cries because it's hungry and it gets soothed because it gets fed. The baby cries because it needs a nappy change and we change the nappy. The baby cries because it's feeling lonely, and so we pick it up and we love it and we soothe it, right? But as we become toddlers, we cry when we hurt ourselves. We cry when we don't get what we want. We cry when we're unhappy. We cry when we have a pain, and it distresses our parents when we express these negative emotions. And it's not just crying. Anger is another one. So this is why we call them the terrible twos, or the, terrible threes, because when children start having temper tantrums, adults become uncomfortable. We don't like that kind of behavior. We judge that behavior as being negative. And so what ends up happening is, even if it's a soothing, loving response, it's like, oh, don't cry. I'll kiss it better. Don't worry, it'll go away. As opposed to saying, oh, you have a pain. It's a perfectly normal reaction for you to cry when it's painful, my lovey. I feel so for you. Let's just sit here and see, and let's see what we can do in order to make the pain go away. Or when a little kid comes to you and says, I'm sad, you're like, oh, don't be sad. There's no need to be sad. We're always trying to cajole little children out of negative emotion. And that's because as adults, we're uncomfortable with that negative emotion. But what the child learns from that is that it's not okay to actually feel negative emotion or express it. And in the last couple of decades, we've had this whole rise in positive psychology, and, it's your attitude controls everything. And, we all want to be positive, and we're all reprogramming our brains for positivity. So positivity gets like a lot of kudos, and negativity gets a lot of negative press, obviously. And so that just reinforces that we shouldn't actually be feeling bad. It reinforces that negative emotion is not okay. So what happens is we suppress these emotions. And your emotions, actually, when you have a thought that generates an emotion, it releases a chemical cascade from your brain, and that chemical cascade actually affects every single cell in your body. So every cell in your body knows that you're feeling unhappy, or every single cell in your body knows that you're feeling joy right now. And when we suppress that emotion, we suppress the feeling of it, but our body experiences it. And in fact, when we suppress it, it hides in our body. So before it actually hides in our body as a sign and symptom, what ends up happening is we suppress the emotion, and it very often comes out in what we call a sabotaging behavior. So if you're very anxious, for example, and you're not acknowledging your anxiety, or you feel like you can't control your anxiety, or you feel like you can't control a situation, you hate your job. So when you come home at the end of the day, the first thing you do is you go to the fridge, you pour yourself a glass of wine, you eat a packet of crisps, you eat while you're cooking dinner, you eat junk food while you're cooking dinner, and then you don't actually eat the dinner, or you eat the dinner on top of that when you're no longer hungry, and then you feel awful about yourself, and then you go to sleep, and then tomorrow you repeat the same pattern. That eating to soothe is very often an emotion that's trying to get your attention. But instead of actually acknowledging that we're anxious, because we don't know what to do with that, because we feel we need to fix it, when the truth is feelings just need to be felt. They don't need to be fixed. because we don't want to feel them because it's fucking uncomfortable, and because we want to fix them and we don't know how, we actually soothe them instead. And so for many of us, food becomes a soothing agent. Now, it can be food, it can be wine, it can be coffee, it can be sleep, it can be Netflix, it can be exercise, it can be healthy food, it can be anything. At work, it can be absolutely anything. But the fact is, we suppress our emotions, and that emotional suppression creates resistance. It creates resistance to us being able to focus on what our hearts are longing to express. The second thing that is an obstacle is that we don't take our energy body into account at all. So, we think that many of us think that, well, we've just got this physical body, or we think, okay, well, we've got a physical body and maybe we've energetically got like a mental and emotional body. But the truth is, you have an entire energy blueprint. You have a blueprint on which your being is based, and energy changes in the blueprint before it shows up in your physical body. That's also why you can have a surgery and you can have an organ removed, but at the level of the blueprint, the blueprint was already not great, which is why physically it wasn't great. So when you take the physical organ out, the blueprint is still damaged. It's still not working well, and it has an effect on the rest of the blueprint. Now, I'm not knocking surgery, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is that we ignore the fact that we have this energy body. Now, not all of us do. Some people do Reiki and they have energy healing, and they have metaphysical healing, or they do Jinshin-Jitsu, or they do acupuncture. But when we don't take care of our energy body, when we're only focused on our physical body, for example, or we only focus on our physical, mental, and emotional, but we don't take care of our energy body, very often there are problems on the energy body. It's like our energy tank, our reservoir starts running out. So your energy body is almost where it's like your security bank account. You've got like an energy security bank account happening there. And if you never work on that level, if you never do anything that fills that bank account, then it gets depleted. So things that fill your energy tank are like being in nature, definitely fills your energy tank. Being with people that you love, that fills your energy tank. Spiritual practices can really fill your energy tank. Energy therapies, energy healing can fill your energy tank. So many of us don't actually fill our energy tank, and that can also create an obstacle for us. The third thing is that before we can change anything in our physical bodies or our mental or emotional health, is we have to accept that it is the way it is right now. Now, that doesn't mean that we go how do people say? It is the way it is, and the way it is perfect. No, bullshit, man. It is the way it is. You might not think it's perfect because it might not be serving you. But the truth is, you have to accept that it's there for a reason, because it's trying to give you feedback. Most people are not interested. Most people want to skip this step. They just want to go straight to, how do we fix this shit, right? They don't want to go to, let me try and understand, not so much about why it's here. It's not about why it's here. It's understand what it's trying to tell me. Because the why is part of your ego going, if I could just understand why I have this cancer, then maybe I'll feel better. Well, you know what? If you understood why you had cancer, is it going to make you not have cancer? Well, no. Are you still going to have cancer? Yes. Are you still terrified that the cancer is going to be awful? Yes. Okay, so understanding why it happened doesn't really help, does it? But understanding what it's trying to tell you, that could be very useful. But you see, again, most of us don't know how to do that, or we aren't interested in doing that because we're so terrified, and all we want to do is focus on how we can make it go away. But before we can change it, we need to accept it. And accepting it is accepting that it's giving us feedback. It's like a GPS that says you've taken this off-ramp. If you take this off-ramp, you're going to go to a different place. If you want to go to the original place that you set in your GPS, then you need to recalculate. The GPS needs to recalculate. You need to reroute. And so your signs and symptoms are there so that you can reroute. But if you don't know that you've taken the wrong off-ramp, as in like you're not actually getting oh my God, we've got the wrong off-ramp, we need to reroute back to ourselves, and you just want to go straight to fixing, that's like you take the wrong off-ramp and then you expect the whole road system to change so that even though this road is going east, you're going to end up in a place that's west of you. I mean, there's no logic in that, right? But that acceptance part sounds like surrender, and it sounds like giving up, and that's why most people don't want to do it. So, when we've accepted it or not, the next problem is we're constantly trying to fix it. Now, here's the problem with fixing shit. Fixing is your ego wanting to make you safe and secure immediately. In other words, basically, I want it to go away. And when you're trying to fix something, like, so if let's just say that you have a cancer, all right? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to fix the cancer. What are you focusing on? Fixing the cancer. So what are you actually focusing on? the cancer. Your focus creates your reality, and so you create more of what you've got. Whereas when your focus is on what is your heart longing to express, what do you still have to do in this lifetime? I have to love my children. I have to, I don't know, learn a new skill. I have to go on that amazing trip I've always wanted to. Learn that spiritual technique that I wanted to, meet the spiritual master that I always wanted to meet, go to the exotic location that I wanted to go to, whatever it is for you, have a beautiful home, or, I don't know, whatever it is for you. It's different for different people, and there is no good or bad, right? It just is whatever it is that you're longing to express. So when you're focusing on, okay, but so what do I need in order? So let's just say I want to go to, I want to go climb a mountain in Nepal. Okay, well, am I going to require some health for that? For fuck sure, I'm going to require health for that. Okay, so what am I focusing? I'm focusing on going to climb that mountain in Nepal. I'm focusing on my healing. I'm not focusing on my cancer. I'm focusing on my healing. And this may sound like splitting hairs, but it's as if you're walking a tightrope. The tightrope is the center. This part is I'm focusing on fixing the cancer, and this part is I'm focusing on creating my optimal, vibrant health. And you can, it's separated literally. It's like by a hairbreadth. It's like a knife edge between the two. And whichever one has got your focus is going to determine what is going to create your reality. So the minute you are in fixing mode, because fixing mode always sounds like trying. It always sounds like striving. It always sounds like struggle. Fixing is focusing on whatever it is that you want to fix, whether that is your marriage, whether that is your finances, whether that is your career, whether that is your health. Fixing is focusing on the problem. And when we focus on the problem, ultimately we create more of the problem. We might get short-term solutions, but ultimately we focus on the problem. All right. So when we're trying to fix, we're trying to create from a place of fear and insecurity. We're not creating from a place of what we would love. And what we're going to do is ultimately create a situation that's going to enhance our fear and insecurity. And so our biggest stumbling block, right, is really our ego reality. And you know that your ego reality is running your show when you feel as if you can't get what you want, when you're pissed off because it's not going your way. Like when things are not going your way and you have a reaction to that, your ego, that's an ego response. Not good or bad. It's just like, this is the road you're on right now. It's not good or bad. It's just, this is the road you're on, and that's where it's potentially going to end up. Whereas when you are creating from a place of love, you're on a different road, and then you're going to end up in a different place. No judgment on whether one is good or one is bad. This is why you have free will. This is why you get to choose. But our ego is always trying to keep us safe. It's always going to keep us with the familiar. And sometimes the familiar is part of the problem that's created the sign and symptom in the first place. So when you want to stay with the familiar, well, then you're going to have to stay with the sign and symptom, which ultimately might be that your disease carries on progressing, and it could even kill you. And so that's that wanting to, that's the wanting what you really want, what you'd love, but you want to be really safe while you're doing it. Well, it's not going to work that way, okay? So when you are not getting what you want, your ego is triggered. And when you are trying to be right, when I'm trying to convince you that my way of doing it is the right way, then I'm in my ego. And that's what creates most of the conflict, right? Saying I'm right and you are wrong. So when you are wanting to be right, when you're wanting things to be your way, and when you're not getting what you want, when things are not going your way, that is a surefire indicator that you are operating with your focus on your ego. So that means you're on the ego road. Not good or bad, it just is. So Richard Rohr, who's a modern day mystic, he had a quote, and he said, this friend of mine shared this with me. He said, what the ego, the false self, hates and fears more than anything else is change. It'll think up 1,000 other things to be concerned about and be moralistic about. Anything rather than giving up who I think I am and who I need to be to look good. That's our egos, guys. Most of us are operating out of our egos 24/7. And here's the good news. You can never give up your ego, right? And so you don't ever have to not be operating out of your ego, but not 24/7. So 49% of the time you absolutely can be stuck in your ego. 51% of the time you want to be living according to the dictates of your limitless spirit, because then you will tip the scales in the direction of creating what you would love, the health that you would love. The fifth obstacle is that we want healing, but we don't want to be responsible. We don't want the responsibility of being the CEO of our own lives. We want healing, but we don't want to be the person where the buck stops. We want healing, but we don't want to not be able to blame our mothers, our fathers, our culture, the economy, the government, because we love blaming. So as soon as we are in that, the reason why I'm here is because this person did X, Y, and Z to me, then we give our power away to that. We're saying that circumstance, the circumstances of my childhood, the wounds that were inflicted on me, the way that I'm being treated by other people is more powerful than I am. And in order for healing to take place, my friends, you need all your power. You need to be fully stepping into your power and say, some shit things have happened to me, but I am taking ownership of that. I'm taking ownership of my part in that. Now, if you had a lot of childhood trauma, you might go, well, what was my part in that? Well, you know what? I don't actually know. But your part in that is that you have colored your entire life based on the stories and perceptions that happened to you then. And if you're here and you're still alive and you are actually you're able to watch this and you're in a first world enough kind of circumstance where you've got Wi-Fi and you're watching this on your phone or wherever you're watching this, then you are no longer stuck in that. You're no longer stuck in that trauma. And it's not easy to move beyond that. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not knocking that at all. Okay, I'm not saying, oh, for God's sake, you all just snap out of it. But we can't create when we've left our power in another situation. And there are energy techniques. There are beautiful energy healing techniques. There are all sorts of things that we can do to help us get our power back. But we have to want to do that. You see, I think what happens, and I certainly have this, like I just want to feel okay. I just want to feel okay. I don't have to do all this shit. Accepting, what's the message, or what's the GPS trying to tell me, and oh, that sounds like it's so long, and take my power, I can't blame anybody. I'm never going to get better at this rate. Well, the truth is, if you keep your focus on outside of you, if you keep your power outside of you, it's going to be very difficult for you to heal. So those are the obstacles. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you about your ego. Your ego is also active when you want to know why and you want to know how. One of the biggest stumbling blocks to healing is wanting to know how. How am I going to do this? How is it going to look? Like if I take the risk of this therapy or this coaching or this whatever, right? And I step out of my comfort zone, what guarantee is there that this is going to work? Or how exactly are we going to do this? It's not what is the next step. What is the next step is going, okay, what is the next step? I'm going to take the next step, and then I'm going to have faith that the next step will be revealed, and the next step, and the next step. I'm going to trust my intuition on this. No. We want to know what the whole plan is. We want to know how. And the other thing is we have an idea of what the how needs to look like. And that how is limited by our ego limitation. It's limited by what we can perceive based on our experience. When the truth is that in actual fact, the how is limitless and it's not up to us. The how will be revealed as we keep our focus on what we would love and we allow our intuition to reveal the how to us one step at a time. So knowing how, needing to know the how, needing to understand why we are where we are, and then needing to know how we're going to get from here to the next place. Like, how am I going to get from where I am right now, tumor, to healing? I want the whole plan. That's part of what keeps us trapped in not healing. And the sixth one is we don't know how to listen to our intuition or trust it. Some of us can listen to it, some of us can hear it, but we don't know how to trust it. Just hold on for 1 second. Luga, I've got a dog that is licking the bed incessantly. He's driving me mad. We don't know how to trust it. Or we get an intuitive hit, we start acting on it, and then we start doubting it. Right now, we're just human. Of course, we're going to doubt it, okay? But the fact of the matter is, this is part of what keeps us trapped in our current reality. This is why healing is hard. So the other thing that I haven't got written down in my notes is that we get infatuated with parts of ourselves. So I'm infatuated with being strong. So in order for me to be strong, everything has to be a struggle. So it can't ever be easy. In order for me to be strong, I have to attract or create adversity, because how else is anyone going to know that I'm strong? If I want to be resilient, then I'm going to keep on having to bounce back from circumstances that are potentially going to be horrendous to show how resilient I am. And these characteristic traits like strong, resilient, positive, even kind, right? They are thinking that that's who we are, thinking that that's truly who we are. That's not who we are. Those are functions of our beliefs, our thoughts, and our emotions. Who we really are spiritual beings having a physical experience. We are unlimited, limitless humans with a limitless spirit. That's who we really are. But at that realm, in that place, we don't have a personality. We don't have things where people can go, oh, I love Loretta because she's so strong. No, it's like, well, Loretta has a limitless spirit just like everyone else has a limitless spirit. And so this is the other thing that holds us back from healing. So in order for us to heal, my friends, I think the most important thing is we need to take our power back. We need to realize that we are the CEO of our lives. The buck stops with us. Our lives are a composite of all the choices we've ever made. And to own that. And that doesn't mean it's all your fault. And it doesn't mean that you've created it consciously, not at all. It's just that, I'm going to take responsibility for my life. And I'm not going to allow external circumstances to dictate what is possible for me. The second thing is that we don't make a distinction between what our hearts are longing to express and what our egos think we need to do in order to keep other people happy and to stop us from being rejected. And we don't listen to our intuition as a consequence of that. And when we do hear our intuition, we don't trust our intuition. We don't take care of our energy. We allow our energy to go all over the shop. And that affects the blueprint of our health. And we are too scared to get out of our comfort zone, what we believe to be true about ourselves, those characteristics that we're addicted to about ourselves, and the way in which we think we need to be in order to operate in the world. And we're too impatient. We don't want to have to accept that, what our signs and symptoms are trying to tell us. We don't want to try and have to learn how to decipher that. We don't want to feel our negative emotions. Those are all obstacles. Now, can you hear that almost none of those obstacles come from outside? Those obstacles are all internal obstacles. And the father of homeopathy, Samuel Hahnemann, said, before you give a remedy, I'm paraphrasing him, but before you give a remedy, make sure you've removed the obstacles to cure. These are the obstacles to cure, my friends. And they can be overcome. They can be recognized, they can be integrated, and we can remove the obstacles. And when we remove the obstacles, our beings are moving towards vibrant health and healing automatically. When we get out of the way, our bodies and our beings do the job for us. So if you have a chronic disease, if you have any kind of illness that you are trying to get rid of, if you've got signs and symptoms that are making you miserable, or if you just want to optimize your health so that you can live your best life possible, I would love to help you on that journey. So if you are looking for someone to help you, then please reach out to me. You can send me a direct message, or you can just, you can put help in the comments if you like, or, message me in the comment, whatever you want to. I mean, it's easy enough to get hold of me. And we can set up a free call. We can discuss where you are, what it is that you would like, where it is that you'd like to be, and whether I can help you get to where you are going. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Shit Loretta Knows. I'll be back next week with more. If you are watching live, please type live in the comments. If you're watching the replay, please type replay. I'll see you guys next week for more Shit Loretta Knows.